All right, good morning and welcome to the Eightfold webinar. We're excited to have you here today. My name is Mihir Gandhi. I'm the Vice President of Strategic Marketing here at Eightfold. I want to thank you for taking the time to be here with us. First and foremost, we hope that you and your families are safe, that you're healthy in these times. We know there's a lot going on and truly appreciate you taking the time to be here with us today. Do bear with us. If you hear kids in the background, a 3-year-old popping up behind me with a Spider-Man outfit, anyone impersonating PJ Masks, dogs, anything along those lines, we're all in this together. Sometimes maybe a little bit too literally, but bear with us. And then again, thank you for your time. I want to talk a little bit about what we're doing here today and set the stage, and then I'll turn it over to our esteemed guests. We at Eightfold have a mission to provide the right career for everyone in the world. And we build a talent intelligence platform that enables talent teams to quickly identify, engage, and hire talent with the right skills and capabilities based on the potential of each individual. We're more energized than ever in times like this. And, the combination of talented, determined talent leaders like yourselves and equipped with the best tools and networks in the world will help us achieve the goal of finding the right career for everyone in the world. Earlier this week, we teamed up with FMI to introduce the Talent Exchange. It's powered by Eightfold. In these times, I think we need a platform that matches people to the right jobs in companies that are hiring. It needs to be something that understands skills and job requirements, and it needs to scale very, very quickly. So in partnership with FMI and supported by McKinsey, we are now providing the Talent Exchange platform free of charge during this crisis period. Now, one of the things that we've heard is a question around, why FMI? And I think as we are all learning how to struggle and cope and make it through these last few weeks and the foreseeable future, we recognize there's a few extremely critical industries in times of crisis. Food, manufacturing, delivery services are those ones that really rise to the top. Of course, healthcare as well. But the food industry is just so vital and critical to our survival. And we have to do everything we can to help support them and, frankly, the heroes who are working in the food industry today. A lot of us are nervous about going to the grocery store for an hour or 2 hours and wiping everything down before coming home and entering the house. And the heroes in the food industry are working many times overtime to ensure that we have access to good, safe, clean food. Now on the Talent Exchange with Instacart, CNS Wholesale, Stop and Shop, Associated Wholesale Grocers, and several more. And Mark, you can talk a bit more about that in a minute. We're excited to bring this vision of the Talent Exchange to reality. Mark and Ashutosh will talk a bit more about this in the coming minutes, which is probably a good segue. I'm thrilled to be here today with our esteemed guests. Let me introduce them. We have Josh Bersin, founder and dean of the Josh Bersin Academy. He's an industry analyst, probably needs little to no introduction other than his name. You all know who he is. He's, of course, the founder of the Josh Bersin Academy. And Josh, thank you so much for taking the time today to be here with us.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a very exciting topic and very important time to talk about this particular issue.
Fantastic. Mark Baum, thank you for taking the time also, the Chief Collaboration Officer at FMI, the Food Industry Association. I think it's safe to say that you are one of the world's experts in all things food, beverage, and CPG, strategy, sales, marketing, merchandising operations. You are the man. So between your expertise and Josh's expertise, I'm really fired up for our conversation today. And then Ashutosh, CEO, co-founder of Eightfold.ai. For those of you who don't know Ashutosh, he's one of the leading global experts in machine learning and artificial intelligence. In creating Eightfold, he is at the intersection of two of his passions, using technology and fundamentally improving our society. And so this partnership, I think, is pretty remarkable. And with that, Mark, I'd love to turn it over to you. I'd love to learn more about FMI, the mission, where you are today, and just the state of the food industry.
Thank you, Mihir. Thanks so much. It is really a pleasure to be here, and we are incredibly fortunate to have found Eightfold and this partnership at this time. just by way of background, I'll tell you a little bit about FMI and who we are, and more importantly, in the context of this conversation, who our members are. So FMI is the Food Industry Association. We are a national, or actually an international trade and advocacy group. We represent food retailers, food wholesalers, increasingly consumer packaged goods product suppliers as well, both brick and mortar and online. And as you know, in recent years, there are some non-traditional places that are not grocery where food is being sold, which has brought the Walmarts and the Targets to us as well. And as some of those purchases have shifted online, that has brought the Amazons and the pure plays of the world to us increasingly. And what's really interesting is, as Mihir said, at this time, in this time of crisis, food really is center stage, along with our very, very brave healthcare workers who are, they're actually saving lives, and our folks are feeding families and enriching lives and really helping people at this time of crisis. And this is unprecedented. We've never been through anything like this before. Mihir talked about the food industry as being the heroes, and I would just point out that the real heroes of the food industry are the folks who are working in those stores every day, who are delivering to consumers at their doorsteps in some cases, or behind the scenes, working in distribution centers, making sure that product is moving from point to point, or working in those manufacturing facilities. We may be considered essential businesses because we're at store level and we're meeting consumers where they shop and where they need to buy those products. But if we don't have products to put on the shelves, then it doesn't really matter. So we've really opened up the door for our manufacturing partners to participate as well. Just a bit about FMI. We are a trade association. We provide a host of advocacy services for our members. We do a lot of work in Washington with policymakers, lawmakers, regulators, the White House. They've been instrumental in this crisis. We interface with them every day, all day, every day. We provide daily briefings back out into the field about that work. We've got a large portfolio of food and product safety services, and we work very closely with FDA and CDC on those protocols. They've come in very handy in explaining those protocols in this crisis, both to store workers and to consumers as well. We also provide a host of business services. So we work on supply chain efficiency. We've done a lot of work through this crisis, trying to ensure that the supply chain stays flexible and agile, and that we're getting product replenished and restocked onto shelves. We keep reassuring consumers we're not going to run out of food and related products. You may be a little short on paper goods right now, but if you come back to your store in a couple of days, it'll probably be there. So we're working really, really hard with our manufacturing and retail partners to ensure that the supply chain stays open. Now, it's kind of a unique point in time, whereas we're seeing unprecedented waves of unemployment across industries and channels. So think about food service, restaurant workers, hospitality, travel and transportation, travel and tourism, hotel workers, cruise ship workers, and the like. We're seeing record numbers of those being furloughed or becoming unemployed to the tune of millions, while we find ourselves at this moment in time in the food industry with an enhanced need to hire as fast as we possibly can. So we need workers, and you've seen the announcements, you've seen them in public. We need workers across the board, and we need them as fast as we can get them. So while there's several million of unemployed workers, there's millions of jobs that we are looking to hire for. And you've seen some of this, the public statistics around what Walmart and Instacart and Kroger and Amazon are looking to hire. And then you think about the multiplier effect. You know, I like to say we have our members come in 31 delicious flavors. We've got the one store operator, and we got Walmart, and we've got everybody in between, and they all need people. So when you start aggregating it, you can look at the public numbers and then think about all of those communities, all those independent grocers that are out there, the wholesalers that Mihir mentioned earlier that are serving them. That, when you aggregate it, rolls up to well north of 1 million jobs. And so, you know, necessity is the mother of invention, and we were so pleased to find Eightfold in this process. And with their incredible knowledge about connecting technology to the betterment of society, we saw a unique opportunity. And inside of 1 week's time, they put up this talent exchange. And it's a very simple exchange, and I'm going to turn it over to Ashutosh in a minute to explain it. But essentially, it is taking the need that we have for workers of all stripes, in-store, drivers, warehouse, etc., with those workers who have been laid off in other retail channels who have similar skills, and those food service and hospitality channels as well. And through their artificial intelligence-based platform, they are aligning those skills and those experiences to place them in jobs in the retail and wholesale food distribution industry. So we are so grateful for the partnership. We just put this up and did a soft launch over the weekend. It really kind of hit the airwaves this week. We'll give you some stats at the back end of this, but we think we built something that is not only adding value to helping our members deliver on the front lines of this crisis, but also giving an opportunity to all those workers who may have been unemployed otherwise to have jobs during this crisis and perhaps beyond as well. So we'll come back to that in a little bit, but right now I'll turn it over to Ashutosh, and he can tell you exactly how it works.
Thank you, Mark. First of all, I really want to thank you for what you are doing and what food industry is doing. The fact that in these times of crisis, we are not worried about food. The food is there on my table. It's thanks to you, the effort of the people that you work with, right? So really heartiest thankful. A quick background. We started the company Eightfold roughly 3.5 years back with the mission of right career for everyone in the world. And that mission couldn't be more relevant today than ever it was in the past. Based on the data that came out today morning, 16.7 million Americans have applied for unemployment benefits in last 3 weeks. And just to put it in perspective, that is more than the combined population of New York City, Chicago, and Los Angeles. Staggering numbers. While many of us are worried about health in these times of crisis, there are people who are worried about putting food on their table, and there are people who need help in enabling that stuff. So the major shift that is happening in the labor market is unprecedented. Some people say that the last time such a major shift happened was during the time of World War II. Now, fortunately for us at Eightfold, we have been working on matching people for the last 3.5 years. And I personally have been working on this problem for the last 20 years. So what's happening is that as this shift is happening, it's just not that one company is laying off people, other one is hiring. Sometimes it's a shift going on across industries. Food industry is hiring, but travel and hospitality is struggling. Many roles across these industries are easily transferable. So if you're a cashier at one grocery store, or you're a cashier at a department store or a clothing store, the role is very transferable. But on the other hand, certain roles are not easily transferable. Like I'm sure forklift operator is a role that is needed in the food industry, may not be as relevant in a clothing store, right? A delivery person is needed, but delivery person does not apply to many other industries, right? But guess what? If you're working in an airline, you possibly can do a forklift operation, or very quickly in a day can be trained to do that, right? You may be a certified Class A license holder, right? So it's not only about saying that people are getting laid off in one place or furloughed in one place that people are trying to hire. You really have to understand who can do what work, along with combining the geographical constraints. Sometimes these industries are placed in different locations, so the transferability of the skill becomes even a harder problem. And I suspect that this problem is just not going to go away in 2 months. I think the COVID-19, hopefully, I pray to God, will go away in 2 months. But the shift in industry will keep on happening over the next 2 years. Where some industries will see an impact of this coming out in 2 months, some will see the impact of this happening in 8 months, right? People will start going back to the market and buying clothing. So those companies will need people, right? People will stop restocking and stocking their refrigerators, right? So some shift will happen over there as well. So fortunately, over the last 3 years, what we have done is we have been analyzing the career trajectory of billions of people across industries, across verticals, across the globe. And that has given us a very good understanding of which skills are transferable, which skills can be mapped to another set of skills, even not just in the knowledge worker space, but also in the blue collar space. For everyone, we can do that today. Then around 3 weeks back, as this problem started getting worse and worse, and we started hearing the news of everyone furloughing hundreds of thousands of people, we were like, we can't just sit idle in these times. And fortunately for me, my 150 colleagues came together. And since then, they have been working day in, day out in building a platform that can solve for this problem. So the way the talent exchange has been imagined is that there are 3 groups of entities over here. One is the companies that are suffering right now, which are struggling, which want to retain their people, but can't. And as a CEO, I know how hard it is to let someone go. It is painful. That person joined you, that person joined your organization, they trusted you, right? In the time of crisis, you are saying that now we don't need you, you can go and figure out your own thing. It does not work that way, right? See, for CHROs who have to deal with this problem, it is a painful moment, and all of us wish, can we do something for them? So we are like, these companies actually have the data about these people, they understand these people, they've been working with them. Why not give them a power so that they can help their own people? And hopefully in 3 months, 6 months, these companies will be in a better shape and will want to bring these people back on board as well. And that is where the furlough thing is coming. So we have focused a lot on the experience of the companies that are suffering through this crisis, that they can come, they can provide a platform to their employees or impacted population. They can even give recommendations to those people, build a profile of these people, identify what skills these people have, and so on. The second group of folks is the companies that are hiring. When you are in the time of crisis, right? Mark mentioned companies like Walmarts of the world who are hiring hundreds of thousands of people, right? No one has time to go and keep chasing people on different job boards, different platforms, right? What you want is quickly identify the people who really need help right now, who are ready to take your call. And you can't go through one thing at a time and manually saying that, okay, who can be my forklift operator out of these 16 million people or more, right? So where the AI comes in is for these companies, they can come and quickly create a position. They can provide these positions in bulk, saying that I'm looking for forklift operator across these 50 cities, across these 75 stores. Or I need these cashiers in 70 department stores. Can you quickly help me find those? Who are ready to work night shifts, late shifts, early morning shifts, right? Who live close to the store so that they can commute more easily, and so on. And the third and the most important group is the people. Providing a platform where they don't have to keep chasing things. They can come in, a platform that is really designed for them, versus saying that, okay, like if I start by asking, do you have a master's degree or not? Like in the time of these crises, that is what's not needed. What's needed is that I've been working for last 5 years or 4 years at this airline or this store or this restaurant, which is just shutting down, or at least putting the shutters for next 2 months. So this is what I've been doing. Can you please help me find the next gig for me ASAP, because I don't have time. I don't have to go through millions of jobs to quickly scan, to keep scanning one at a time to see which job is relevant for me, which job is not relevant for me. Should I apply over here or not? If I apply, I'm going to hear back or not? What will happen to my profile, right? Versus, so what our AI system does is brings these 3 parties together in a very seamless fashion. Think of it, for each person there is a coach, and it's an AI-powered coach which is working for them. Whether it is a company that is getting impacted, whether it is the individual who's getting impacted, or whether the company who is hiring. And then, of course, analytics that comes with it, so that everyone can see what is going on.
Thanks, Ashu. I am excited to introduce Jason Gray, who's here with us today. Jason is our Senior Director of Solutions Engineering here at Eightfold, and he's at the epicenter of the delivery of the Talent Exchange powered by Eightfold. So Jason's been with us for some time. He knows the product and the system inside out. Jason, without belaboring the point, let me turn it over. Would love to see what the platform's capable of.
Absolutely. And before I get started, just on video here, just thank you, Mihir, for introducing me. And again, thank you, Ashu and Josh and Mark for the setup. You know, the Talent Exchange, it's super exciting to see this come to fruition, because this has been the vision of Eightfold from the onset of the company, was to deliver this Talent Exchange. So leading up to this, we've delivered wonderful enterprise products for talent management for companies to keep their employees and match them the right jobs, as well as talent acquisition for companies to easily find talent and get them matched to the right job. And then also do this without bias. Talent Exchange, though, brings a whole new lever here because of obviously the onset of COVID and the remoteness of all these workers. We've seen industries really contract and other industries expand. And so the Talent Exchange now is delivering on matching organizations' talent with one another so that no one goes unemployed. So let's take a look here through this to set up the software demonstration. I just want to kind of bring it back to the surface that it's all about matching people and jobs. And so we have downsizing companies with, they can provide good job options for workers now, a way to execute partnerships with other companies, perhaps to furlough, loan talent for 3 or 4 months while we go through these difficult economic times. Tools to stay in touch with those furloughed workers as well, to keep them part of the family, even though they're working for a different logo. And of course, the impacted workers, right? They have a variety of skills, and we want to match those skills and experience to an open job and allow them to apply quickly and fast from the hiring companies. And then the hiring companies, their ability to recruit at scale across these workers. It might be blue collar, where they really need to hire a lot of people quickly. It might be a knowledge worker or a white collar worker as well. But having that fast hiring, click to offer ability, and understanding the furlough dates of the worker and or the ability just to hire a worker on full time going forward. These are the 3 personas. And this gives each of these groups a much faster way and accurate way to address this urgent challenge. And so if we just take it even 10,000 more feet up, the Talent Exchange, again, is about matching people jobs. We're going to look at a company called Travel Air, hospitality industry, hotels, airlines, restaurants. We're going to then look at the displaced employee from that company, and they're out of work, and how do they find that exchange experience, because Acme Products has a job for them. I mean, perhaps from a retail perspective of groceries, distribution, manufacturing, we may have someone who could be a cashier from Travel Air. So let's quickly get them matched. There's no job that can't be matched. That's the beauty of the exchange. So let's look at the demo flow that we're going to see. 3 personas. Travel Air, they upload their list of workers. They send a contact email, notification email. They might even hold a virtual meeting with the people they need to furlough or lay off. And then they monitor the overall outreach and people taking positions. Next, the displaced employee receives that email. They click in the link. They're able to land on the page right with their phone. This is mobile enabled. And they create a profile. They can actually then submit that profile. Then they're going to be matched the right job from the employer or right within the interface that they're working with. And then that company that's making the offer, they're uploading a list of jobs that they already have. They're reviewing the best matches, and they're identifying that displaced employee to contact and interview them and make offers. And it's simple and it's fast. So let's take a look at the software now. So here we are on the Talent Exchange dashboard. I am a program manager. I am managing with compliance and HR and legal at my company, Travel Air, and I need to move people, unfortunately, out of the business. But the wonderful thing is Talent Exchange allows me to make sure that we're not adversely impacting families. We're actually putting them into new jobs. And if you look over here on the right-hand side, I could look by role, by status. And as we open status, we can see where they uploaded, did they register, did they offer. Now I've already have 27 employees in this list, and perhaps that was my first wave. And now 2 weeks later, it's known that we're gonna have to do a little more. So I can quickly download from my payroll system or HRIS and go right in and actually upload my list of files. And we make it extremely easy to upload that list of possible people that you need to furlough. Make sure that you got full name, first name, last name, email address, and phone number, uploaded successfully. That's great. Now I can go back to my dashboard and actually contact all of these people at once, or maybe just choose a specific one, click contact just to show you here where I've got a variety of email templates. I can see how they're performing. But when we look at this email, it's a get signed up on Talent Exchange email to their employees, right? With a nice level of messaging. Then when they receive this email, they're going to click this get started link that you see here that I've put a box around. And so when that happens, they're actually taken to this landing page. So I go into my email inbox, I've got my phone, I see it on my phone, I say, oh wow, there's an offer, Travel Air can find me a position. That's amazing. I click on the email link, it brings me this landing page. It's being empathetic. It's explaining how Travel Air, didn't see this coming. None of us did, and our businesses are transforming. And during these times, I want to make sure that you're gainfully employed. So it's just 3 easy steps to activate your profile, receive offers, and accept offers and complete that onboarding. So what happens? I click that get started now, and I can go ahead and actually plug in my information. So you can see I'm on a phone here. The text is a little bit smaller, but I really want to hammer home that some of these people don't have CVs or resumes. They just need to get on that phone and get in front of people quickly. And so here I'm on an iPhone 6, 7, or 8, and I'm Sam Gompers. I put in my email address, my password, and so forth, my phone number, a reference code, and I allow potential employers to see my contact info, and I agree, and I go ahead and join. As I join, I now go into my profile where I can say that I'm in New York, I'm at Travel Air in the M Hotels, I'm actually a customer service manager, perhaps with cashiering capabilities, how long I've worked there, I could put in previous roles. So making it very easy and fast. I can stay if I'm being furloughed or not. And then what am I interested in? Well, I might just take any job, really, because I have customer service experience. I've done cashier, I've done inventory, I've done delivery, maybe not facilities. I can put in some of my the skills I have, and Eightfold AI identifies what I'm typing. So cashiering might be one of them. And then customer service, obviously another. And I go ahead and select that now. And I can add additional skills. And to go ahead and submit. And on submit this, I can go ahead, and once that account's created, it's going ahead forward. Now, when we come back here as now a hiring company, we want to find these people that have signed up from Travel Air. So we're going to go ahead and switch to that, sorry. So I'm a store manager at Acme Products. And we've partnered with Travel Air through the exchange to take on a variety of individuals. And here I can actually see my positions. I've uploaded my positions. I've got cashier, grocery cashier, overnight stocker, forklift driver. And I'm going to go ahead into the cashier grocery because this is an area that we've got to make our offers. And here now I can see all these wonderful matches of people that could possibly feel this cashiering, and they're coming from Travel Air. I got people from Global Grocery, from some of their cafes, from some of their warehouses, from some of their actual airline brands as well. And when I come into these people, I can then also review and see what level of experience they have, toggle through them very quickly, reach out to them by contacting them like I've done here, and an email opens on the left-hand side, where now they're going to receive this email and see if they're interested in talking more. And as this goes forward, they go into a tab of contacted. So I can see who I've contacted, how many emails they've opened, and finally, who have I offered? And the beauty here is I can also offer right out of this view. So I not just contact people, but I click the offer stage here, and I go ahead and click send and get this sent out to any one of these individuals that I'm interested in contacting. Right, so I checkbox them wherever it may be, make that happen. Then what we see across the board here is this demonstration is Travel Air is able to quickly and easily upload their workers, send them communication. Those workers then in step 2 are able to click in that email, use their phones, create these profiles, get matched to jobs. And finally, Acme Products is able to see those pools of talent, automatically match their jobs, contact them, and make offers. In just a few minutes, we're now allowing talent, instead of going to over 6, 10, or 20 million unemployed, we're looking to reduce that and really scale across all companies in a global effort.
Thanks, Jason. That was fantastic. I think as we think about the power of this kind of an exchange and the implications of this kind of an exchange that use skill-based knowledge and insights of every individual and helps match them to open roles based on the requirements and skills required to do those jobs. This opens up a platform, I think, perhaps broader than simply the food industry. And if you don't mind stopping your screen for just a second, what we'd love to do is, in just a minute, flip it over to Josh Bersin. Josh, is an industry luminary. He's been thinking about the future of work. He's been an analyst in the HR tech space for a long time. And obviously he's been involved with Eightfold, known about us for a couple of years. We've had several conversations. And so, Jason, thank you so much for the demonstration and the walkthrough. Really appreciate your time. I know you've got to get back to helping deploy the platform and the exchange for a few customers that have, or for a few companies that have signed up just in the past 12 hours. And so I'll leave you be. Thank you again for your time, and we'll go from here. Thanks so much.
Take care.
As a lot of you know, I've been an industry analyst in the HR domain for kind of a long time, about 20 some odd years. And up until January or February, we had a lot of stuff going on in HR already. We were basically at the peak of an economic cycle. Most of you were worried about hiring. Most of you were worried about employee experience. We were trying to soften out a lot of income inequality in different cities of the country. There was a lot of debate about the minimum wage, and the stock market was very high, and the federal government was pretty much proud of the fact that the stock market was high and to some degree ignoring a lot of these issues. And then, and by the way, employees were stressed out before this happened, especially younger people. And I know a lot of you have a lot of younger workers in your companies because of the nature of this kind of work. Young people, for the first time in my career, and I'm in my 60s, have basically said they don't believe their financial lives will be as successful as their parents. 2/3, almost 3/4 of millennials and Generation Z workers believe that their financial future may not be what they had hoped. And, this is all before COVID-19, not too long ago. They were concerned about stress, role clarity, and so forth. And then this happened. And I don't need to show you the stock market chart. It went up a little bit since then, but we obviously had this crisis, and we're now very aware of the fact that we are in a new world. This only happened 60 to 90 days ago. And so we started a pulse of what's going on in HR, and I've been more or less online. It feels like I've been on video calls full time for about 2 weeks. A lot of you probably feel the same way. And when we ask employees what they're worried about now they're worried about losing their jobs. Number one by far. Number two, very close behind it, is their personal health and safety in the job, in the assignment that they're being asked. But then look at some of these other things. How do I take care of my kids because they're home too? How do I pay my bills? How do I work remotely if I even can work remotely? And a lot of you probably aren't interested in remote work right now, but that's a big issue. By the way, I'm not even sure if this employer is going to be around. And then there's the issues of, can I do my job well and can I perform well? And in the HR organizations, a lot of you, in those functions are actually going through a big reset also. And so we also surveyed last week about 300 companies on what their HR strategies look like. And yes, health and wellness is number one, but this transition to a new type of work or a new role is number two. So most of you are very aware of the fact, and depending on the industry you're in, that we have this large body of workers that we may have furloughed or let go, but we have other things now that we need to do also. And so do we have the right people in the right cities with the right skills ready to do these other jobs? And you can read through some of these other things. The other thing that comes up very, very high is mental health and emotional health, because we are all suffering through a pretty big shock Now I haven't lost my job because I'm an independent kind of consultant, but if you lost I've been laid off, I know what it's like. It's a pretty traumatic experience. There's probably nothing quite as bad as that. So we have that issue, plus the fact that your kids are home from school, plus the fact that you're worried about your parents, plus the fact you're worried about your personal health. So all of those things are going on. And if you really look at what companies are doing to respond to this before we get into the jobs of the future, a lot of it's about communication, listening, surveying people, keeping in touch with people, creating working groups, empowering local business people and local offices and cities to be much more actively involved and take responsibility. One of the companies I talked with last week is a global company, and they had to shut down all their stores in Italy very early before the rest of the world even thought they knew it was going to happen. So all of a sudden they had all this unemployment and all this furloughed workers in Italy, and the rest of the country was saying, well, we don't realize that that's going to happen in these other cities yet. And so the local business partners had to make a lot of very fast on the ground decisions that maybe in the past they had not been empowered to do. So what's really gone on right now in HR is we've moved down Maslow's hierarchy. This is a chart a lot of you have seen before, and it's fairly well known, and it basically shows the way the hygiene factors of our lives are replaced by the higher level needs we have, and we just moved down the chart. And in a sense, all of the work that you've been doing in HR before the crisis is now changed. And so I did this is an interesting chart you might want to think about as an HR leader or as an HR team, is that many of the things we were doing right before this all happened in maybe December or January are now still needed. They're just needed in a different way. Instead of being focused on productivity, we need to respond. Instead of looking at promotions and onboarding and talent mobility, we need to look at where the infections are, where the incidents are, who's in what location, and who's ready to move to a new role. Rather than designing things in advance, we need to design things immediately. Rather than starting globally and making decisions in headquarters and then rolling them out, we need to decentralize decisions. In fact, I'm doing a webinar in an hour about the new role of HR. And one of the things that's changing that I think HR organizations need to deal with is this idea of, which the military has done, of distributed control with central coordination as opposed to central control with distributed implementation. Because when things change this fast, not all the decisions can be made at corporate fast enough. So you can see some of the other things that have changed. Let me sort of wrap up with one more point. And that is this idea of psychological safety. Regardless of the organization you're in, first of all, when you lay people off or let people go, there's research that shows that the surviving employees lose about 20% of their productivity because of the impact of losing people and their own worries about what's going to happen to them. That's number one. Number two, there's also studies that have been done in the aerospace industry where there's layoffs, every couple of decades or maybe less, that almost 25% of the people you lay off, if you let them go, will never come back to work for you again. They have a bad taste in their mouth about the experience, and it affects your employment brand. So one of the things you have to do during this time, and I think most of you know this, and the federal government's clearly playing a major role, is try to take care of people and give them a sense of psychological and human safety. And so, as we go through these discussions of the Eightfold platform and how this all works, try to keep a lens on that. The final thing I'll show you just relative to HR, and then I want to show you one thing about jobs. And this is from data we just picked up yesterday, that the biggest problem companies are having is coordination. It's coordinating many, many decisions that need to be made in many, many places very quickly. And doing that in a way that is distributed and empowered, but data driven and intelligent. You may have one city where the workers are all, under one set of conditions because of the nature of that city or that state's regulatory environment about the crisis. And you might have another city where they're completely locked in and they can't move at all. And those kinds of decisions are hard to make locally. So this is, data that just came out yesterday that we published as part of this, this COVID-19 pulse survey that we're doing. Finally, let me just wrap up on the topic of jobs. And this is why Eightfold is so exciting. And you're going to hear more about this from Mark. I met the Eightfold folks a year or two ago and looked at what they were doing. And Ashutosh and that team there is some of the smartest, really software engineers in the HR domain. And what we're basically experiencing right now is 3 steps. We had the job market of 2019. The job market of today, I mean right now today, is very different than it was. Obviously, those of you who are in direct food service or retail jobs, a lot of you, those jobs have either been eliminated or furloughed, but healthcare jobs have shot up, sales jobs have shot up, transport jobs have shot up, logistics and software are still big. So we had this transition. And then the question is, what's going to happen next? And none of us really know. I think actually the Eightfold guys will probably find out as fast as anyone. I do a lot of work with an organization called MZ, which is a data collection organization that looks at job postings minute by minute, as does Eightfold. And what we're starting to see from the data is that there will be some existential shifts. And I think Mark has some really good perspectives on that he can share with you. Once people get used to package delivery of food, package delivery of groceries, package delivery of other, new parts of their consumer lives, they tend to get used to that. And if you remember in the 2000-2001 recession, which I remember vividly, we had this overcorrection on .com. We thought we were going to buy everything online, and then it turned out that it did come, but it came 10 years later. And I think this is a similar situation where this low touch, high delivery experience that we're all trying to serve and meet right now is probably the beginning of a big new wave in that area, to say nothing of sort of COVID safe products and health and safety brands that will probably emerge in food service that we probably didn't spend enough time on in the past. Certainly will happen in transportation industry. So that's a little bit of insights on HR. And Mahir, let me stop there and just turn it back over to you for the rest of the presentation.
Yeah, Josh, and actually, I'm sure Mark has a series of questions and Ashutosh have a series of questions. I know I do.
Sure.
Would love to understand a bit more of your perspective on the future of work. Obviously, there will be longer lasting impacts on the way we think about the food industry, transportation, real estate, so on and so forth,
Well,
and even the models of working, right?
Yeah, the other thing, there's a lot of things that have changed, and sort of a lot of this was very, very obvious right before this crisis. First is people are living longer. So the span of people's careers is much longer. Most people my children's age will live well into their hundreds. So they will have 70-year careers. They might even have 80-year careers. So this idea that you're stuck in one job, it's not going to be that way. So employees and employers have to be comfortable that we're going to be going through multiple career and job transitions for everybody, and people will live much longer. Older people now are part of the workforce. The fastest growing segment of the workforce is people over the age of 55, because the birth rate is low in most countries, not in India and China, but it is in most developed countries. So we have this issue of allowing and enabling older people to stay in the workforce longer and bring them back. And then there's this issue of skills, which is really what the Eightfold platform is all about. We used to think that, and I certainly was raised this way, that you would go to college or you'd go to school or whatever, you'd learn something and you'd have these skills and you would take these skills with you most of your career. You'd be an engineer or whatever it was. That's not true anymore. Skills and skills needs are changing rapidly. If your employees are in food service or retail or hospitality, they're developing some very, very complex skills in communications, in listening, in empathy, in persuasion, in in communicating with people in sort of a subtle way. Those are skills that are actually becoming more and more and more valuable over time. There's an interesting article I wrote a couple of months ago, which I call power skills. It turns out if you look at the technical skills that people want in jobs, they change all the time because the technologies change and the tools change. But the skills that are the most essential are getting along with people, listening, working in a team, collaborating, communicating, taking complex ideas and making them understandable, time management, deciding what to do when you have 100 things to do, which we all do. Those are very complex skills. And so on the positive side of all this, the disruption that everybody is going through right now is teaching us things that we're going to use later. And so, there is a sort of maybe a little bit of a silver lining in all this, that we're all going through one of the greatest learning experiences of our lives right now. And let's hope we just survive it. And for those of us that do survive it, which is hopefully most of us, we're going to come out of this with a lot of new skills to be used in our careers that will be much longer in the future. So those are just a couple of thoughts.
Josh, just to build on, I find what you say so synergistic with what we've been doing as an organization. And it's great because I just met you recently and we're all going through this together and learning together. Yeah. It's really fascinating to me because FMI's got a strategic plan, and one of the pillars is our plan are emerging issues. Mm-hmm. And so that's pillar number 4. And the number 1 issue in pillar 4.1 is the future of work. And that's exactly what you've been talking about. So we were already on a path to try to determine what the future of work looked like as it relates to the food industry, both knowledge-based skill jobs as well as physical distribution and in-store jobs and the like. And what we're going through has just has accelerated our understanding or our quest to figure that out exponentially. And
one of the things that'd be interesting to talk about with your clients is how essential these soft skills are as people move. One of the things that's going on in big, more industrial companies is internal talent mobility has become a massive priority. Now, the reason it was a priority before the crisis is because nobody could hire anybody. Now it's a need because of the crisis. So that's the another part of the future of work is companies have to make it much, much easier for people to move around inside in a more facilitated way. And I'm sure you're seeing that in your clients too.
And we're seeing massive shifts. We talked about, and this is one of the really great things about partnering with these guys at Eightfold. It's using artificial intelligence to better understand the function of human resources. It's kind of an interesting combination. And, we talk about the missing middle, which is kind of the interface between the algorithms and the human part of that equation and putting all that to work. So for example, you talked about the technology changing. We now have automation in store, right? We have a number of retailers that are employing robots. Sure.
Yeah.
Walking up and down aisles, doing inventory checks, alerting people to spills, doing a lot of functions that you used to have to send somebody out to do. So what you do is you take those workers and you repurpose them into much more customer service oriented roles. You talked about EQ, you talked about relatability, sociability. With all the mashup that's happening at retail, it's socializing people to exploring new things and new experiences in store, and we could go way down a path on that. But it's really, if you can go to a boxed beef program and you can get the butcher out from behind the door to interact with customers to teach them how to better cook a meal, or what some of the less than known primals are, you can really add a lot of value to the customer.
Well, there's another thing interesting, Mark, I'd love to get your insights on. In the general data about the workforce and businesses as a whole, there's a shift away from technical roles to service roles. The entire economy is becoming service oriented. Professional services, nursing, healthcare, food service, and so our service jobs, where the quality of the product is dependent on the relationship between the customer and a person. And so I think it'd be interesting to get your perspectives on food service if your companies are seeing that yes, obviously it has to be healthy, good food, but the way you consume it, the way it's packaged, the relationship you have with that company and that business is increasingly a big part of that company's value. And so that sort of, to me, pushes this issue of, if you have people that are really well tuned to your company with great soft skills, you don't want to lose them. You don't want to just let them go.
No, actually, you need to build those out. And, you know, and increasingly consumers want to have a conversation with the companies they're doing business with. You know, we used to wonder in the early days of email, if we push all this out, will consumers, you know, be upset? How do you, no, they're demanding it. They're demanding not only to have this dynamic two-way dialogue, but they want to know what you're about as a company. They want to know the story about their food, where it comes from, and you know, what they're eating eats in some cases. They're shifting consumer food values has changed the game for everyone, because in some respects you can differentiate on product a little bit, but you know, you can buy a lot of, say, center store items at any number of outlets. So how do you build that brand loyalty? You build it through the value-added services and the relationship you have with those customers. So we see that as right in the bullseye of where all of this is going.
You know, Mark, I'll just give a quick story on that. I went to our local grocery store just last weekend, and I was going to make lamb curry, and the butcher spent 10 minutes with me, talking me through what type of cut I'm looking for, what I want the end product to look and taste and feel like, where it was sourced from. It was certainly a very different experience from me simply just walking up to the counter and ordering 1.5 pounds of lamb stew. And you know, the consumerization of these interactions are very much becoming the expectation of society by and large, right? And we are expecting a different level of service, and frankly, hungering for the human touch around it. Especially now, right? And Josh, you hit the nail on the head. This rapid need for reskilling, which was always in the future, has now just been thrust upon us. And now we are figuring out what this reskilling looks like. And certainly there's a technical aspect, but there's a very human element to it as well.
I'd like to posit just another sort of thought about this based on what Joshua was presenting earlier about the jobs of yesterday, today, and the future. Nobody knows exactly what it's going to look like going forward, but we do know it's going to be different. There are some things that have changed irrevocably, and there have been these seismic shifts in the marketplace and in the workforce. And so in Josh's slide, he talked about retail in general, and then he talked about food service. But if you were to just take the service aspect out and go to food retail, we're the ones right now who our customers and our communities are turning to. And food service, which we think of as restaurants and hospitality and the like, are the ones that have had to lay off and furlough workers. What's going to happen when we come out of this, when we return to some degree of normalization? If through our talent exchange, we're taking a lot of those food service and hospitality and tourism workers and we're converting them into retail, are these part-time shifts? Do they become something longer than that, depending on how long it takes to flatten the curve, or consumers go back into those establishments or those channels? Or does it become something a little bit more permanent? And I don't think we know the answer to that. I don't know, Josh, if you've got a point of view about it, but we're seeing those shifts occur.
I think there's an interesting thing, because I spend most of my time with employers. I think the employers who thrive are going to build long-lasting relationships with their workers. And they're going to teach their workers how to represent their brand and obviously do their jobs well. And they're going to want to move them around internally as much as possible. That's my thesis. And I think if you look at really successful sort of consumer brands and retailers and food service companies that I work with, people who like working there stay a long time, and you like working with them, sort of like the butcher. You know, if that butcher was brand new, he may not know how to give you the right cut of beef. So I think even though these jobs are changing, smart employers should think about their hourly workers as talent, not fungible, replaceable bodies. And hopefully that's part of your mission in the association.
Let me put it to you this way. When we think about what our members' mission is, they're a products-based, consumer-facing industry. However, their most strategic asset are their talents. It's their people. People make a company, people break a company. Whether you're in a products-based industry or a service-based industry, it's all about the people. And what's interesting is the advent of this emerging technology, which we're putting to such great use in our industry, artificial intelligence, robotics and automation, virtual and augmented reality. We're going to voice. Voice is going to be another sea change in the way that we interact with consumers going forward. At the heart of it all, it's still a people business. And I say that because one of the things that I get to do is travel around the country, indeed around the world, auditing stores and looking at what retailers are doing. And when you get into the store, you recognize it takes you back to where it all happens. It's where that consumer decides to buy or not to buy, right? Or where, as Mary Poppins would say, at retail, anything is possible, even the impossible. It's where the magic comes alive. And that's due to the people, not just the product sitting on the shelves.
It's not a webinar until we get a Mary Poppins quote.
Yeah. I always look for an excuse to get that in there. It's hard though.
Well, Josh, Mark, I think we could probably do this for another hour. The future of work, skills, reskilling, ironically, AI and technology helping people become more human and more humane, dovetailing with the current environment where people are yearning for that touch is certainly wildly important. Just to bring it back to the exchange and to what we're trying to accomplish together as a team is, how do we ensure that people can focus on those around them? And one of the ways to do that, and you brought up Maslow's hierarchy earlier, Josh, is helping ensure that they're employed, and they're employed in places where they can leverage their skills, learn new skills, be productive, provide income for their family, so they can start focusing on things outside, upstream on that hierarchy. I think with the time that we have left, and Josh, thank you. I know you're running late for a couple.
I'm going to run off.
For a couple of other things. So thank you for your time.
Talk soon.
I think as we tied this up, Ashu, I want to flip it back over to you. For any final thoughts, and I know you had a series of questions for Mark as well, but would love to hear some of the real-time updates on the exchange and then where this is going in the future for the platform.
I have two other thoughts, just quickly sharing those, and this is mainly for the HR leaders on the call as well. Is these are times when there are companies that are struggling. They are making a tough decision of letting their people go. The more you can help them get the right opportunity, the more you will build a relationship with them. So it is very, very important to focus on that part. And the second thing, which is, wanted to ask Josh as well, but the fact that most people now are at home for 2 months, 3 months, right? I'm sure all of these people are getting a different perspective on life as well. Sometimes reweighing their own priorities. So I won't be surprised coming back into the workforce, many of these people start rethinking about their own career. Are they in the right role? Are they in the right job? Should they be doing something differently tomorrow? So it is extremely important that as an HR leader, we stay in touch with those people, make sure that they are excited coming back to the work, and keep growing the organizations. So yeah, those would be my two main parting thoughts. But thank you, Mark.
If I could just build on that, I think particularly the latter point is so critically important. We've been talking about all this in the context of the future of work and what that's going to look like. And while we don't have a crystal ball, when we talk about industry attractiveness, food retailing hasn't exactly been a career destination for a lot of people for a while. Those of us who are in it for a long time love it and recognize what a varied and rich and rewarding experience it can be. But at this time of crisis, we're managing the psychology of this crisis as much as we're trying to flatten the curve and contain and treat the disease. Food retailers have become the heroes. They're the places where people are going for any semblance of normalcy in their lives, as well as going to pick up the products that they need to keep them alive. So it's been a really interesting time. And if we do the things that you're suggesting, Ashutosh, then the food industry will become an incredibly attractive career destination going forward. So if there's a silver lining through all of these dark days, when we get to blue sky days once again, I think food retailers could be a very attractive career choice for young people if we treat them the way you're suggesting.
Yes, no, I agree, and I couldn't agree more. I mean, that is so spot on, right? And I would say that there's one more small silver lining is Josh was mentioning that the power skills of future, right? And we talk a lot about empathy. The fact that everyone is at home with their kids, families, struggling through this, I'm sure we are getting a time to become more human. So that will go a long way.
And I'll just add, I'll close with this one thought because it's going to be a shameless plug for a national promotion that we it's called Family Meals Month. And we started this promotion 5 years ago. It's every September. And what we do is encouraging consumers, families, purchasing products at our member stores to eat at least one more meal a week together. It's not structured. We're not prescriptive. We don't say what you should eat or which meal it should be or what you should be planning. But we know that families who eat together and spend that time together have residual benefits. They have much more human interaction. There's lower rates of substance abuse. There's lower rates of truancy and all of the features and benefits of coming together as a family. And this crisis has brought that back to life in a major way. Families are eating together. You're seeing the benefits of all that. And I think National Family Meals Month is going to become a year-round event. And I think that that is going to only deepen our humanity going forward.
That's an awesome thing. I love it. Thank you, Mark.
Right. Do we have what we would like to convey to our audience here?
I think so. Mark, Ashu, Jason, Josh had to drop off. I want to thank you again for your time and lively conversation. Mark, we're on the front end of what's going to be a phenomenal partnership. And the better that we can execute and deliver value, and the more that we can unlock the power of the combination of our organizations, the sooner we can start to resume more life as more normal as possible in the new context of a COVID and a post-COVID world. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your partnership. Ashutosh, Jason, Josh, thank you guys also. I will close with just a quick screen. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to email us at talentexchange@eightfold.ai. We would love to talk to you about what we're building with the exchange. We would love to help you out more than anything else and help your employees and those who are impacted by our current crisis out. So with that, I'll close. Thanks again, and stay safe, everyone.